Welcome to Rise and Shine, your daily business tech boost with me, Charly Leetham. If you're a small business owner looking to simplify technology and get real, actionable advice from someone with 35 years of IT experience, you're in the right place. Every episode, I'll dive into tools and systems like email, CRM, marketing, and tracking, and I'll break them down into bite-sized tips you can use straight away. Your time is valuable, so let's get straight to the point. It's time to work smarter, not harder. Rise and shine. It's your daily dose of business tech inspiration with me, Charly Leetham. Episode number 574 today. And we're going to be talking about tracking pixels, what they are, where you use them, why you want to use them, and some things to think about. The term tracking pixel is, to me, because I've been around for a very long time, a relatively new tag, relatively new label. The term pixel, I believe, came from Facebook when they were talking about installing the pixel so that you can track our ads. We've been using tracking pixels forever, as far as I can remember. No, it's not been forever, but it's been a really, really long time. The earliest use of a tracking pixel that I can recall is Google Analytics. You've had to put a piece of code on your site forever to be able to make sure that Google Analytics can give you the statistics about how people are using your website, your e-store, and even now in these cases, your mobile apps. So that's kind of the start of all of this. What is it? What is a tracking pixel? A tracking pixel is quite simply a tiny, small, nearly invisible image that goes onto your website or into your mobile app, or it's a piece of code. It's a code snippet that gets loaded whenever, and either of those get loaded whenever someone visits a page or opens an email. Now that image that is loaded onto your page is never ever actually hosted on your own website. It's actually hosted on the site, on the service that's doing the tracking for you. So when that gets opened, when that gets pulled down, the site goes, oh, that image got open. Let's start tracking that communication. Along with the tracking pixel, what also tends to happen is a small piece of code, a small text file gets written to your device, whether it's your PC or your phone or your tablet, that says this person has come to this site on this date, and it puts some information in. It's called a cookie. Okay, I've done an episode on what cookies are, but it's the cookie. And the cookie and the pixels tend to go together because the pixel triggers it and says we've got to write something to say that we're tracking this user and this is how they track you. They put this little cookie on there. It's not nefarious, don't get me wrong, it's not nefarious. It's just a way of making sure that they understand where you've moved through and how they get that information off of your device. I'm going to come to cookies and what they mean in terms of being able to block them as well shortly. But that's what the pixel is. It's that piece of code that loads on every page of your site or whenever you open an email. So I'm bringing emails into this now, that says this email's been opened, this site, they've come to this site. It sends activity data back to a tracking or analytics program. So your common use of this is Facebook ads, Google ads, email tracing. Yeah, they'll be the three that they'll be the three that I can use the most at the moment. There's more. Yeah, LinkedIn will do it. X will do it. They'll all do something very similar, and they'll all require some form of tracking to be put onto you, or some form of code to be put onto your site or an image to be able to say, yep, that was a trigger for us. So what happens is when the page loads, the browser requests the pixel from your server. So it's not actually, none of this is actually hosted on your server. The piece of code you put on says, go and get this particular thing off of the host server. And it goes, oh, that's a trigger. We're going to start the tracking now. And it logs the visit, starts the tracking. It will report information like your page visits, time on site, your device type, your approximate location. It won't track your exact location. Pretty certain that's in the legislation that it's actually not allowed to do that. Depending on the type of tracking you're using, it will tell them whether someone's taken a follow-up action, they've made a purchase, they've signed up, what it is they've done through your site. They'll look at where you've come into the site. They'll look at the pages that you've looked at through the site. They'll look at where you've left the site if you haven't made a purchase. It'll look at what you've done to get to the purchase process, or what your visitor has done to get to the purchase process. In terms of emails, it's a little different. An email tracking pixel will, it typically loads with the images, and it signals that the email has been opened. No personal information is collected from any of this unless the visitor has been logged in or identified by prior actions. Let me rephrase. Let me re-say that. No personal information is gathered by your tracking pixel unless the visitor is logged in or has been identified by prior actions. So unless you have created an account on a site and the pixel's been written then, or the cookie's been written then with your information, you're just going to be an IP address out on the internet. If it is tracking the logged in information, it will pretty much only correlate the user ID with the tracking. It won't identify anything else about you in your tracking. That's got to be done elsewhere. Okay, sorry, I say that. Facebook may actually be able to correlate the user ID with the Facebook account. I haven't looked at the analytics in Facebook ads in a very long time, so maybe it does that, but that's about all it's going to do. It's not going to give people any other information like your email address or your phone number or your date of birth or your user ID or your password, those sorts of things. Why do we use them? Well, we measure ad performance pretty much. As I said, it tracks a lot of stuff, but the main usage for tracking pixels is we want to track performance. We want to track performance either of an ad or an email marketing campaign, or we can even use this, to be perfectly honest, if we are running a social media campaign and we just want to run standard social media posts and have it tracked. If we're using Google Analytics or a similar program, it will track that for us. We can actually set it up to track that particular campaign. So it's not just tracking ads that we're paying for, it's tracking our own ads in terms of social media posts and whatnot. It can also help you with your remarketing. So it'll target people who visited but didn't buy before. So remember I spoke about that little cookie that was written on your computer. When you get there, when you go off the site, that cookie will remain, and when the ads come back up, they'll have a look and they'll say, and it will look for that particular cookie. So, oh, you've been to that site before, but you didn't buy, so we're just going to throw some ads at you. We're just going to show you some ads to remind you that site is there. Now, is that a bad thing? I don't know. I mean, I'll talk about tracking your privacy later shortly, but it's certainly something. Excuse me. There we go. It's certainly something that we as business owners want to know. I'm running an ad campaign. I want to encourage the people who have visited the site before to come back in. How do I do that without spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars and targeting everyone? This is a really specific campaign about you were looking at this before. Do you want to come back and have a look? How do I target only those? The remarketing is the way to do it. Improve your emails. We're talking about using this in terms of emails, because we're looking at open rates specifically with an email, because the tracking for your once they leave the email and they go to your website, the other tracking will kick in. So your emails really are just looking at who opens the email and whether they click on a link within the email. That's pretty much all you're going to get out of your email marketing. Some may offer you a little bit more, but that's pretty much it. Why do you do it? You get to test your subject lines. You can test your content. You can test the call to actions within your email, and you can have a look at things like, Okay, so we sent this at 10 o'clock on Monday morning and we got a 9% open rate. We sent this at 3 p.m. on Friday and we got a 50% open rate. When are we going to send our emails in future? Well, we're going to test to see if Friday is actually an anomaly or whether that's the case. We're going to give that a few more tests. Okay, we use this subject line. If we're doing A/B testing, we use this subject line and we use this subject line. Which one gave us the best result? That's where you would use this stuff. And if I take all of that, the whole outcome, the whole reason you want to be using tracking pixels is so that you can make better decisions on where to invest your money. You can look at where you're getting proven results and double down on that and ignore the places where the money is not being well spent. And if it's a market segment you want to get into, look at other ways of targeting that market because what you're doing here is not working, so stop spending money on it. Privacy concerns. I really want to hit privacy concerns. It's really important when we're talking about tracking to understand what our privacy requirements are. As business owners specifically, there are some pretty huge fines if we mess it up, even if we make a mistake and we didn't know, or it was just an honest error. So there are laws like the GDPR and the CCPA. The GDPR is the EU privacy laws, and this amongst some of the strictest that we've seen in the world. They require you to disclose tracking in your privacy policy. You know, when you also go to a website and it pops that little thing up saying we track your cookies, or we track your data. Click here to accept all cookies or say no. And if you say no, it sends you off the site, won't let you go any further. It's because of the GDPR, because they have to make it really, really clear that they are tracking your tour through their site. So you've got to disclose that tracking. You've got to make sure it's really, really clear that you are actually tracking them through the site. Some users, like me, will block pixels or cookies, and that's going to reduce your data accuracy. Why is that under privacy? Because we can do that. I run Brave browser. Don't try and say that 10 times fast. I run Brave browser and I have the ability, well, it's standard. I block cookies and pixels and all sorts of things when I go visit sites. So my data is often an anomaly to people because they can't see me as I go through. Why do I block that data? Well, it's kind of simple. Have you ever gone and done a Google search and then gone back to Facebook and been bombarded by ads based on a Google search you've done? Or have you gone to a shopping site and had a look around and then come back to Facebook and been bombarded by ads from that shopping site? Okay, that last example is a really good example of remarketing. You went and looked at the marketing site, you went and looked at the shopping site, then came back to Facebook and it went, oh, you've been to that site, here's an ad, here's an ad, here's an ad. This is where you've got to be really careful that you get your strategy right. Well, I don't want that. And the reason I necessarily don't want that, the reason I don't want that is because I do a lot of research. I do a lot of research to do these videos. I do a lot of research for my clients into products and services that they might be able to use, or they might say to me, do you know about this? And I'll go and do some research. I don't want to be bombarded when I get onto Facebook and all of those places by ads for stuff that I really have no personal interest in. I have a professional interest in that. I want to know about it so I can help my clients better, but I don't want to be bombarded by ads when I'm doom scrolling, when I'm just scrolling on Facebook and trying to look at pictures and stuff. Don't care. So I run Brave browser to block that. There are browser extensions that will allow you to do the same thing as well. So just understand that you will have users like me that will give you anomalies in your data. It's not going to, it will make your data less accurate. I'd like to apologize, but I'm not going to. It's just good to know that's what happens. Another privacy consideration is if you are overusing your tracking, it can feel crappy. It can feel crappy. It can also feel creepy or intrusive, and that's going to destroy your trust. So if you remember what I just said about I've gone to a shopping site, I've come back onto Facebook, and I'm just being bombarded with ads. That is a really bad strategy. Why, if I've just been on the shopping site, am I coming back to a social media network and getting hit with ads for it immediately? I've just been there. I don't need to be reminded about it. You're probably better off waiting 2 or 3 days and saying, okay, they haven't been back in 2 to 3 days. That cookie's still on their computer, blah, blah, blah. Let's hit them. Let's send them a reminder. And maybe, try and set your ad spend up and your ad flow up so that you're not hitting them every 3 minutes with an ad from your site, from what you're doing. Now, I realize that's probably not you as the business owner or the ad runner that's doing it. I realize that's probably Facebook's platform that's got as much to do with that as anything, but it is something to bear in mind. It can feel creepy. It can feel intrusive. It can just be downright annoying. And whatever that is, it's going to destroy the trust, or it's going to erode the trust between you and your potential client. So, what are the best practices when we come down to privacy and tracking pixels? We want to be upfront about the fact that we are collecting information. We also only want to collect the information that we need for genuine improvements. If you don't need it, don't collect it. It is privacy information. A lot of this stuff ends up being private information. Whether you realize it or not, you're able to profile someone by the way they've gone through your website. Why do we want to do it? Okay, so we want to track the information accurately as possible because it's going to give us sharper targeting. It's going to allow us to target people who are truly interested in our product. Remember what I just said about if I've been off on a shopping site and I come back to Facebook and I'm being bombarded, I am less likely to go and buy there. But if I've been off to that shopping site and I haven't bought, and then a week later I get an ad pop up and I go, oh, yeah, I was going to go and buy that thing, or I was going to go and look more into that thing. I do that. I'm sure you do that too. That's the targeting. That's where your targeting really comes into it, is that you're going to give me that little bit of a push to say, I'm here. If they've purchased your product before and you've got a new product, you can target your ads to people who have purchased before from you, and this is a really good complementary product. Let's tell them about it. Cost savings. So that translates into the cost savings. You can avoid wasting ad budget on uninterested audiences. You're actually going to be spending money where people are likely to buy, not just throwing money out in a big spray saying who's going to pick it up and have it sit in there, go rotting because no one's interested in it. It's going to give you better insights. Now, I spoke about this earlier. You're going to know where people enter your website. You're going to know where they enter the app. Like, have they come in right on the front of the app? Have they gone into the site inside? Same for your website. You're going to know which way they go through your website to make a purchasing decision. You're going to know which products they've been looking at and we're comparing, potentially comparing. You can make some assumptions as to what they were doing when they were looking at multiple products. If we're talking about emails, you can work out which emails perform better and just double down on those sorts of things. The thing is that you're going to get data-driven growth. You're going to make smart marketing choices without the guesswork. I hear people saying, yeah, sure, but how do we put it on our website? That's all we really want to know from you. I got there finally. So how do we get this on our website? When you go and set up Google Analytics, Facebook ads, Google ads, what do they call it? Google AdSense? Google ads, let's just call it Google ads. LinkedIn, X, whatever it is. Whenever you put on an ad from an ad service like that, they will say to you, go and put this piece of code on your website. And that's normally where people contact me and say, we don't know what we need to do. They'll give you a block of code and they'll say, go and put this in and put it in the header or the footer of your site. I get a lot of people contact me and say, how do we do that? Okay, so you can do it yourself. You can absolutely do this yourself. You do need to be a little careful. You can either put it, if you're running WordPress, you can put on my least popular option is to put a plugin in that allows you to inject code into the header and footer of your site or wherever this needs to go. You can put a plugin in. I am not a fan of using plugins unless we absolutely have to use them. Putting a plugin on just to insert a code snippet into your header and footer seems like overkill to me. Okay, but you can do that. Some themes will actually have, if we're talking WordPress, I'll come back to some of the others in a minute. Some themes will actually have a themes options, and that will say, do you have anything you want to put in the header and footer? And that's where you would paste it in there. I know, things like Thrive Theme Builder actually have a a scripts section, and I can just go and put the scripts in there and say, where do you want to put it? I want to put this in the header. Great, done. It's all done for me. You want to be able to edit it though, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend going in and editing theme files. That's really, you want a techie if you're going to do that one. But use if you've got a graphic tool, a graphic user interface tool to do this, use that. Otherwise, you can use a plugin. My least favorite option, but you can do it. Wix and the rest will have similar options in their back end. I can't tell you where each one is off the top of my head, but if you go in, it will say, have you got tracking codes in it? And you'll just put the tracking code in there. You should be able to do that. Emails will do it pretty much automatically. I don't know if you've noticed when you go into MailChimp or MailerLite or Zoho or one of those, and it says, do you want to track link link clicks, and you can turn that on or off. It's on by default. It will do it as standard. It will automatically put the open pixel in, but the link clicking, the link tracking, you can turn that on or off, but they do that automatically. You don't have to worry about the code. You just need to tell them whether you want to do it or not, and it will do it. The best thing about these approaches that I'm telling you is that there's no coding skills really needed unless you want to go and edit the theme files, and I really don't recommend it. Don't do it. You just need to paste the ID or the code that you get into the graphical user interface that's provided. We're going to talk about some risks and myths about tracking pixels. One of them, the first one, pixels track everything you do online. No, they don't. Look, I'm going to treat that with a little bit of skepticism. They can track an awful lot of what you do online if you're not careful, but they don't track everything, and they can't track everything you do online. They really can only track what you do in relation to the site or the email they're installed on. They can't read your site browsing history. And if you leave the site that you're on and go elsewhere, it is unusual that they will be able to track you any further. That cookie might still exist on your computer, but the cookie itself is not doing the tracking. The cookie itself is the identifier for the tracking to be able to say, this is who you are. The second, sorry, the second myth is pixel tracking is illegal. No, it's not. When the GDPR came out, there was a lot of hoo-ha about, oh, you won't be able to track anything. They've made trickle paxing, pixel tracking illegal. No, it's not illegal. It's just highly regulated. There are some very specific things you need to do around it. And the most important thing you need to do around it is to disclose that you are tracking and what you are tracking. Following on from that, you shouldn't be misusing the data that you are collecting. If there's anything that's personal that you're collecting, make sure you're only using it for the purposes for which you are collecting it for. And the last part of that piece of legislation is that you do need to give people the ability to have their data scrubbed if they ask for it. So no, it's not illegal. You've just got a few things that you need to make sure you put ticks in every box for, and you're sweet on it. Email tracking doesn't always work. That's the third one we've got here. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. I don't know if you have noticed that sometimes you will send out an email. If you've been doing this for a while, sometimes you'll send out an email campaign and you'll get a beautiful response to it. You'll get people ringing you or making purchases or sending you emails or, chatting at you or sharing it on Facebook, and it runs, oh, sorry, on social media, and it runs really, really well. And then you go and you look at your statistics, and your open rates are really in the toilet. They're right down low. you haven't had many people open this campaign, or so it looks. But you can tell you have, because you've had interaction on it. That's because the email tracking can be a bit funny. Apple Mail, some privacy tools will actually block or delay the pixel loading on an email. So if someone opens the email, goes, I'm not interested, and closes it, the pixel won't trigger. It won't send out the thing to say, yep, we've got an open here. So you're losing that data. Sometimes also I found that if you've got the ability to preview an email, like how you get the preview pane up, that preview won't trigger the pixel either. And you can still click through because you've got a link right at the top, but it doesn't trigger the pixel that normally loads lower in the email. So yeah, so the email tracking doesn't always work. Just make sure you're aware of that and may understand that, much like people can block your tracking, your statistics here might be a little bit off as well. They certainly won't be 100% accurate. Those two things, that the fact that we can block our tracking and the fact that email tracking doesn't always work, comes back to the fourth myth, which is over-reliance on tracking. Metrics aren't perfect. Don't rely on them as gospel. Don't rely on them as your only way of making decisions. They're guides. They're not absolute truths. You should absolutely take them into consideration, but you also then need to consider other things around it. Don't just use this data on its own. Use other data. Use your own intelligence. Use your own data gathering to make decisions based on your tracking. The last one, loss of trust if users feel they're being watched without consent. You always need to provide an opt-out option. That's why you get those little pop-ups that say, no, we won't track the cookies. Some sites actually kick you off if you won't track the cookies. Whatever. That's up to them. But always provide the option to opt out. Make sure you're being very, very clear about what you're tracking them on, and make sure you've also got the ability for them to contact you and say, scrub my data. I don't want you to keep it anymore. I just want it gone, please. I'm sick and tired of getting all of your ads. Please just get rid of it. Alrighty, guys, that is pixel tracking. A bit of a longer one today. Hope it was helpful to you. Any feedback, questions, comments, anecdotes? Did I say something you didn't agree with? Did I raise a question that I haven't answered in this video? I would love to know. You can come across to my community, askcharlyleetham.locals.com, and join the conversation there. You can always leave comments wherever you're watching or listening to this video. I will get back to them eventually. If this video was useful to you, please give it a like, maybe share it with a friend. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell so you find out when I got more content. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Hey there, thanks so much for tuning in to Rise and Shine, your daily business tech boost. I hope today's episode gave you some actionable insights that will make your business tech work smarter for you. If you found value, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with other small business owners who could use a daily boost. For more tips, tools, and resources, visit www.askcharlyleetham.com. Until next time, keep rising, keep shining, and let's make tech simple together.